welcome to Real Chicks Rock Presents Real Discussions. I'm your host, Michelle Dosberg, and as always, I'm super excited to be here with you. I know I left you last week with a replay. Just had some things going on that I needed to take care of. I've missed you, but I'm back. I am back today, and we are live and in color. We're here based in Atlanta, Georgia, and it is cold. We're wearing scarves, some Uggs, boots, coats. It is cold here. Just a couple of days ago, a week and a half ago, 77 degrees. It was really beautiful, but now it's cold. And it's still beautiful days, don't get me wrong. Sun is shining and everything, but it is cold. People are wearing sweaters and hats and carrying on. I just think it's going to be a cold winter for everyone. So just fasten your seatbelts. I wouldn't be surprised if we get some snow in the A, but listen, and despite the weather, we are still in a political state, right? There's this whole runoff that's going on. Early voting's going to start happening tomorrow. The election is going to be December 6th, I believe. So if you get an opportunity to do the early voting, take advantage of that if you can. Very interesting that this is a runoff. I'm not going to get into the political space for today. But you guys that are based here in Atlanta already know what it is, and you know what you need to do. So go out there and vote, right? So we can really kind of tie this up on a good and proper note, if you will. Enough of that. For the new people that are listening and checking me out, thank you so much. First and foremost, let me just give you a little background about what Real Chicks Rock is all about. We're all about creatively collaborating to connect, raise awareness regarding issues that impact women by way of community service engagement, public speaking, mentoring, workshops, and the arts. And this, ladies and gentlemen, we've been doing this now. This is our 7th season, and it's just been a wonderful ride. And I've had the blessed opportunity to talk to some very insightful, informative, entertaining, talented people. And today is no different. Today is no different. I got my guest today, Julius Spates. He is known as the Mad Thinker. Hi, Julius. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good. Super excited to see you. That's always a nice face to see. How have you been?
I've been doing well. Busy summer. Got my hands full. Lots of projects. But I'm feeling good and healthy and around a lot of people who are doing great things.
Awesome. So you are in Chicago at the moment, correct? Nice and chilly up there, isn't it, Julius?
Yeah, I decided to keep it tropical, right here. Since the weather's not doing it for me, I figure at least I can have my spirit do it. Maybe I can have some type of impact.
Yes, man. You're channeling warmth, right? You're channeling warmth. I know. Good for you. Let's jump right into it, Julius. Where are you from?
I'm originally from Elgin, Illinois, which is about 45 minutes west of Chicago.
Okay. All right. What was the neighborhood like for you there? Did you grow up in Elgin, or did you move to Chicago eventually?
I grew up in Elgin. I grew up in a very multicultural neighborhood. Like one neighbor was Indian, another one was Japanese, the other one was from Poland, and then we have like a couple Caucasian families, a Mexican family, and I split my time when I was a kid. So that was my neighborhood, and then my cousins on my mom's side lived in an all Mexican Puerto Rican neighborhood, and my cousins on my dad's side lived in a black neighborhood. So I was just making the rounds when I was a kid.
Wow. What kind of music did you listen to, Julius? What was on your playlist back then?
Oh, gosh. Well, first of all, I'd have to let you know that my mom and dad had one of those huge wooden stereos with the disco lights, that go in the felt, right? and then the turntable. So every Saturday was kind of like a cleaning Saturday.
Yes. And
it would just be pretty much like R&B, like R&B and disco, I would just say that, right? But, of course, I was a Michael Jackson and Prince fan. And then that was when I was like a little kid. And then when I got to like high school, then I was introduced to like Led Zeppelin, Metallica. Nice. So I had a pretty well-rounded introduction, and I was in marching band. So I I was a baseball player, a skateboarder, and a person in marching band.
Wow.
So I had a super diverse music and friend group.
Yeah. Sounds pretty good. In the marching band, did you play an instrument or?
Yes. I played the cornet.
Nice.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I wish I would have paid attention more when I was, playing band.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where my mom kind of made me do it, right?
Yeah.
First, I started with guitar, which I really wish I would have stuck with. But I didn't do that. But she got me to stick in band because it was in the school program. And then, I did it primarily because there was going to be a problem if I didn't do it.
Right.
However, I can say this, though. Now, producing music, what happens often is I go back to times when we were in sectionals in band, when we were and just trying to understand what role each instrument played. So I go back to, back when I was in band, and I'd be like, oh, wait a minute, the flute section, they had this role, or the drum section had this role. Yeah. So even though I wasn't quite there as much as I, wanted to be like, I guess, psychologically, but man, I go back to it now, and I'm so happy that I played an instrument that my mom made me play.
Thanks. Sure. Kudos to mom, right? Making us do the things we didn't really want to do, but it helped us, right? And I think, Julius, because your musical footprint was already interesting anyway, just made sense that you just can add being a musician to that. And now producing, you can just tap into it. Like you said, it kind of comes back to you, but I'm sure you're going to have an opportunity to do even more and consider yourself a musician.
Yeah, actually, interesting. My actual DJ style, I realized over the years, because with the trumpet, it's a lot of this.
Yeah.
And so when I'm mixing, I'm doing a lot of this, and I realize like if there's like a vocal, for instance, I'll use the EQ many times as the exact same as you would do it when you're with a trumpet.
Right.
So you were just playing that da-na, da-na, da-na. So it'd be like da-na, da-na, da-na. It's so weird. I didn't realize it, but it was like some years that went by, and I was like, oh my God, this is like playing the trumpet. And so I like kind of adapted it, right, and not even knowing. So yes.
Awesome.
Go band.
Awesome. Go band. I want to talk about, how did you start DJing? When did that happen for you? What was your first experience?
So being from the suburbs, basically one day I felt that there was at least 500 people in my city that were as bored as I was. So therefore, I bet my cousin that I could get 500 people to go to a party at my house. So it wasn't like about 500 people. It was about, there had to be at least, it's like the town was 64,000. There had to be at least 500 people who were bored like me. So the only way that I was able to do the party was under two conditions from my mom.
Okay.
Number one, that I had to write a business plan. And number two, if I were to make any money, I had to give my sister spending money to go to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico for her senior trip.
Wow.
So that business plan, my mom didn't think I was going to write. That was kind of the thing that she was just like, I don't want to let this kid throw this party. I know what I'll do. I'll tell him to write a business plan because I know he's not going to write no business plan. So I wrote the business plan, got super detailed with it. And my mom told me years later, she's like, damn, I got to let this kid throw this party, right? So she let me do the party. I was able to get 600 people to the party. I was able to give my sister $500 to go to Puerto Vallarta. My sister eventually goes to Puerto Vallarta, has the time of her life, comes back, decides she wants to travel the world. So she gets really persistent and basically convinces the company that set up her trip to hire her on as the youngest student organizer in that company's history at the time.
Right.
So I keep throwing party, of course, and along the way, I start to disagree with the order of songs as our DJ. So I start to try it, and lo and behold, summer of 1994, I was able to successfully sync the beats. The song was this techno house song called Energy Flash.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget like the feelings, just like, I got it. That feeling Oh, still to this day is the absolute greatest feeling that I've
Wow.
ever felt in my life.
Wow. 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 Let me ask you about the business plan. What was the business plan about or for, if you know?
So primarily, what I remember of the business plan was it ended up being a complete design, flow, parking, security, and then where each portion of the event would take place. So we had a deck, so there was a dance floor where I was going to hook all the DJ equipment up or have the DJs put all that equipment, which is on the inside of the deck just in case it rained. And then we also had a pool. So there was like pool, and then we had a half-acre lot, so I knew where that was. But mainly it was about like where was everybody going to park and who was going to be security.
Man,
So
it seems like that business plan helped you out for future things that you do today.
yeah, totally. I don't you know what I've learned over all these years is that I am possibility driven, right?
Okay.
So if I'm inspired about a possibility, I'm willing to play whatever role that it takes in order to, to bring it into fruition. And often my ideas, be it songs or whatever I'm involved in, it's this thing that it's just like the first party. It was like, man, I know I'm not crazy, but it just seems like there's got to be at least 500 people that are bored like me, right? Or with Mikasa Holiday, it's just like, I know I'm not crazy, but it seems like people would love to hear house music in Paradise too,
Right,
right?
right.
So it's and I've learned that that's been kind of that reoccurring question that I have myself in pursuit of something. And then generally it's like, there's the idea, I've seen it, and now it's like, okay, how do you put this together? And many times over the years I've realized that my taste for what I want is far superior than the literal talent that I have trying to do. So I know I can't do it alone, right? So it'll be like, okay, who do I know? And then I generally look for the most passionate, gifted people in a specific area, and then we just work it from there. And I usually am pretty good at like maybe like looking at like what the vision would be, right? And painting that picture.
Yeah, you're truly a visionary, Julius. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. How did Mikasa start, though? I mean, when did it start? Like, we're 2023 is the 15th year?
Yeah, 15 seasons, 15 seasons. Yep. So going back, so the part that I didn't say, so my sister goes to Mexico, has time in life, comes back, commences that company. So my sister essentially goes 20 plus years of travel and hospitality.
Wow.
And me, after I keep throwing parties and the DJing in 94, I keep throwing parties. And then in 99, I get together with some friends, and they want to create this kind of friends network, and it was called 3 Degrees. And the concept was everyone knows everyone within 3 people. So it was a free party and free weekly party, and got a chance to understand how people kind of distinguish positive commonalities from each other. But that kind of laid the groundwork for Mikasa Holiday, because it started in 99. A year and a half later, there was 10,000 friends of friends all over, right? From just friends of friends.
Right.
And then in 2009, my sister, so let me go back a little bit. 9/11. After 9/11, what I learned is that everyone reprioritized their lives, right? So, and disposable income disappeared. The technology was racing forward, and in entertainment, what happened was promoters, clubs, they were all choosing the same artists over and over and over again. So there was no room for the just skilled DJ, right? You had to figure something out. So all that started to kind of create this frustration. Meanwhile, my sister had been in travel and hospitality asking, hey, let's maybe your fans will follow you, or maybe they'll go. And I'm just like, well, I'm not Fish, so I don't know if my fans are going to be following me around the world, right?
Right.
However, so then that led to us looking at different destinations. And once we start looking at just different destinations, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, in that period of time, I was also touring, and I ran into a guy named Nicodemus. And actually, before running Nicodemus, Justin, Aquabeat, Deep Just, Adam Gibbons, this guy Brent Crampton, a bunch of us were already traveling, decided we were just going to start traveling to see each other anyway.
Right.
Then I meet Nicodemus, and the conversations that I was having with my sister about where to go, I end up meeting Nicodemus and tell him what we were planning to do, and he's like, oh, that's so amazing, because I was taking people to Puerto Rico, but the crew is kind of like, maybe you don't want to go to Puerto Rico. He's like, I think this will be welcome news. Yeah. And on top of that, he mentioned Playa del Carmen, Mexico, which was an hour south of, hour south of Cancun. Mm-hmm. And my sister, when she started, they went from Puerto Vallarta, and when she got hired by the company, they went to Cancun. So by the time my sister and I, in 2009, took both concepts of travel and hospitality and event production and put that together, we were set up to have essentially 25 years of travel and hospitality with a solid company behind us, so we could offer our guests from, condos and hostels to 6-star all-inclusive resorts. Nice, right? Nice. So it kind of, the entire story manufactured itself. And in 2009 just was that period, and there was a slight point where we were not going to do it, because the relationship between Mexico and the USA were at odds, as it often is. Right. And so, but we decided to do it, and that one weekend in Playa del Carmen was described as very magical, and that weekend evolved into a travel and music community, and where we now produce in Costa Rica, Cuba, U.S., Mexico, and other cities around the world.
Man, how do you come up with the locations, Julius? How do you determine that?
Generally what happens is, well, first of all, I've already traveled, right? Been touring internationally since 2006. Mm-hmm. So I had already been to that, but what happened as we started in Playa, then people from other countries would come, and they say, hey, you know what, you should do a Mi Casa holiday in so-and-so country. And that's what happened with Costa Rica. So went to Costa Rica, started doing there, and then same thing, we were at a travel show, and just so happened when we were talking to someone from Cuba, my sister was, one of the Mi Casa holidayers walk up in the middle of the conversation at that travel show and just start talking about what their experience was of Mexico, and the person was the tour partner in that was asked us about or talking about Cuba was like, whoa, you have this type of experience, people coming up about, it was just happened to be there for that. So that's what happens, and now we send out surveys and stuff like that. But what we realized along the way is that we can't produce all the cities. It's an extreme amount of work per destination. So over the years, our vision has evolved, and it's not about having everybody have to just go to Mexico. Our vision is becoming the ultimate resource, so that for travel and music, especially house heads, that we can connect you to the music scene anywhere in the world. That's the vision. Nice.
And when we say the music scene, is it just house music for those that don't know, or is it whatever?
So it starts with house music, and the beautiful part about house music, from my experience of traveling even other countries, house music artists are in the middle of every other genre in that city. So you literally can go to a house head, someone who's in the scene, ask them about blues, jazz, rock, folk, country, whatever, and they know everybody who's in the scene, because house music is so open to all of it. I didn't know how it was going to transpire, but that's how it transpired actually on the ground as we started traveling. So our nucleus is house music, and the reason house music is so important is because many times the way we curate destinations is house music is the soundtrack. And the beautiful part about the soundtrack is that the focus isn't necessarily the music first. It just is like that background that makes you feel so comfortable. And then you'll get inside of an actual like an event or whatnot with house heads, and you'll hear your sounds. But for people who never have traveled, house music is perfect because it's like being in a hotel, in a W hotel. I always talk to that, and then all of a sudden you've never heard the song, but you're bopping your head like this, right? That's the experience of most people who even people who like, they'll be like, oh, I don't like house music. And then they go and they'll be like, how do I find more of this music, right?
When's the next event? When's the next party? That's what they'll say.
Exactly. And we all know what happens when someone's introduced to the music scene, right? Especially if you've been cooped up and it's like, I need more now.
Yeah, it's a fiend. You become a fiend. So, Julius, let me ask, every year for the past, this is the 14th season, like we said, 2023 represents number 15. So congratulations to you on that.
Thank you.
What was the decision to end or do the big Mi Casa every October in Mexico? Tell us a little bit of how that came about.
So if you go back, and this is why it all connects. Remember, my sister went to Puerto Vallarta. Mm-hmm. Then she goes to Cancun. I meet Nico. He's already in Playa. And when I meet him and he's in Playa, he tells me, hey, I also connect you to the president of the clubbing district in Playa del Carmen. So by this time, I had a pretty clear understanding of how to make sure that give ourselves the highest probable chance to make sure everybody had a great time. And in coming up in club culture, I was always someone who was trying to push the envelope, right? And so earlier on, there was like people who promoters would always tell me, you couldn't have a house music party like what you guys play in the bigger club because people wouldn't come, and they'd say it was the house music, and I was just like, wait a minute, okay, let's take the music aside. If Michael Jackson came to your club, he could fill it up, and he's not playing house music. So it's not about the house music. The whole thing it was about, can you bring people, right? So once I understood that, in all the clubs, there's certain people just want to be entertained. Right. And then there's the portion of your crowd. And then the question is, can you bring a big enough of that crowd to impact the rest of the crowd so that they have a good time for whatever they were going to expect? So I'd already learned this through ebbs and flows over the years. So by the time when I got to Mexico, I already knew that even if we brought, 30, 40 people or whatever the case, 20 people, 8, 10 people in a club can change the dynamic of a club if they have the right culture and the education. And if we can choose the artist, it's almost not fair in that way, right? So I knew we had a great chance, right? I knew we had a great chance. So that's what we did. Yeah. Everything pointed to Playa del Carmen. My sister and I brought those together. And what was very important was I was coming off of 14, 15 years straight of going to the Winter Music Conference in Miami. Right. And being, someone who's constantly thinking and breaking things apart, I realized the issue with the Winter Music Conference was that the central hotel where they would invite everyone started to become less and less relevant. And I believe that the connection between the talent that they were bringing and the promoter and where the music was going and everyone in house music that was relevant at that time, there was a disconnect. And so the big the thing that was so exciting when you go to the early years of the music conference is you'd have to get a badge and go to that central place and meet everyone first, right? And you see the Louis Vegas, the Roger Sanchez's, the Terry Farley's, to Dimitri Paris, whomever, everybody, Terry Hunter's, Frankie Knuckles, everybody, and you just go, wow, right? As soon as that appeal wasn't there, then there was not that reason to, to have to go there. Therefore, then it started getting fragmented. And once it got fragmented, then it became kind of party central. Then when it became party central, from a user or a house head experience, it went from, oh my God, there's so many parties, to, I'm picking one party and I'm going to that party and that's it. Right. So, and then of course, if you're traveling with one or two people, it's fine. But once you get 6, 7, or whatever the case, and it's like you got to wait for somebody, and everybody doesn't have the same tolerance. So there was all these things adding up, and realizing like the dynamic of people. So when we moved to Mexico, what we wanted to do is give the adventure that Miami would give. So going to different venues was fun. It was just choosing which space to go and dividing friends up. That's not fun.
That's not cool.
Right. So what we did was we made it so that there were no conflicting events, and we would take the travel group together, but then we would change the location so you still get the adventure, right? So it was like really taking apart everything that I'd been to, all the conferences, events, and all that stuff, put it together, and then crafting an event design, curating it, and then as opposed to thinking of every party that we should do, because I knew other artists and promoters were dealing with the same thing, which was, how do I keep what I'm doing relevant with a growing audience, right, in my market? And what we realized from doing 3 Degrees for every Wednesday from 99 to 2007, and then every month from 2000 to 2007 in San Francisco and New York. And what I learned was that people they change, their priorities change, right? So it's like 2 + 2 is 4.
Right.
So the question was, and the challenge was, it's like, what if in a certain market you could then offer those guests and part of your community that where it's no longer in their priority to go weekly, but a yearly vacation, you could give them enough time to plan.
Right.
And what if they didn't have to miss a beat?
Right.
Because part of your priorities changing. What happens is you want to kind of go out, but then it's like, where should I go? And the question is, what's going to be, can you get the good venue that works with your style now that your priorities have changed, with the good music and a good crowd?
Right.
All three are very, very difficult, even for someone who's in the scene and looking, right?
Right.
So someone who's not, it's almost impossible, right? So here's something that we could curate automatically, and have that part, taken care of.
Yes.
So that means if this is happening to us in Chicago, and all my friends where I play, whether it be Boston, LA, Atlanta, it was happening to everybody. So now at the same time, it's you're solving a local problem, and then you're also boosting your brand, and boosting more like value into your brand, because now you have an international something that you can be involved in.
Yeah.
So it was like thinking on several different ways, and then the best part about it was that Miami was so damn expensive, and Mexico was like a quarter of the cost for even way better accommodations. So people got to Mexico and they were just like, "What? I love Mexico."
It's winning on so many different levels, Julius. And again, hats off to you, because when I've gone, it was beautiful. I thought the places we partied, my mouth was just open because it was just so beautiful. And then when we go to Paradise, that's just that is just gorgeous. And and I used to go to WMC, and I totally understand it. And now, Miami is very pricey. It's like somebody exposed how beautiful Miami was, right? Miami Beach. And at a time, it wasn't as expensive. And then a lot of non-house head type of genres of music started coming there, from hip hop to, MTV Awards and all kinds of stuff, and Spring Breakers and everything. And so it's like Miami said, well, we got something hot here. And so things just started to change economically. And even the vibe feels different for me when you go down there. So I totally understand it. And another thing about what you offer, right? Because you create a safe space, Julius, right? And oftentimes there is usually a higher percentage of women that will travel than men, right?
Yeah.
Just keeping it real. And the fact that single people will go, but return back with a whole community of friends is beautiful. Because a lot of people are like, I'm a house head, I want to go somewhere, my other friends can't really go, I'm gonna go. And by the time they get on the bus or get to the first party, they've met some people in their city, different city. I mean, I've met people from Europe, to your point, like, and they're like, we do this every year. This is our this is our vacation. This is our time to vacation. So it's awesome, and it creates community. So your community expands, and we take that with us back into Atlanta, like you say, Boston, Jersey, across the water. It's just a beautiful feeling, and no one looks bad down there, right? Everybody looks amazingly well. That sun kisses us, and we're gorgeous. We are gorgeous. So that's awesome, man. I love it. I love it.
Well, yes. Everything it's by design. I have like some of my best girlfriends. It's all designed for a single woman to be able to go by herself, right? Yes. So, because if you can make that work, everything else will work, right? And I know, because I always get the emails I'm by myself this year, or I really want to go, so I don't, and I understand that, and I just always tell people who travel by themselves, like, just know that you may be getting on the plane alone, but you're not coming alone.
No.
We're going to be here. We have support for you, and make sure that you're in a place. And then even the way we choose the venues, we make it so that you have to keep passing each other, right? The probability of everyone passing each other. So then once you start to pass each other, or even at the airport, once you even get on the bus or get on a van or whatever the case.
Right.
So it's just like you're looking at the person next to you like,
Right.
Oh, you're here. And then, it's the name game. Where you from? Oh, I'm from Atlanta. Oh, my friend lives in Atlanta. Oh, my friend. Who's your friend? Ramon. Oh, I know Ramon. Ramon,
It is a thing. Oh. And the first time that I went, I did have a friend, someone that was just really concerned about going by herself because her roommate had backed out. And we talked her into going, and now she goes every year. And she slid in my DM to let me know that 2023 was already on the calendar. And I was like, look how beautiful that is. She's been this is probably her 8th or 9th year. She's been going ever since. And so it's a great thing. Congrats.
That's amazing. Because you know what? On the production side, I realized 3 years into it that it went from, hell, I wonder if we can get people to come to Mexico, to, oh man, this is so cool, and there's a whole nother artist and DJ aspect of it that exists, because it's the third tier down, but it's like that there's a platform for that artist who's not just that producer, you know what I'm saying, or just that promoter. So there's a tier of every artist, and there's a complicated system of how we pick artists and stuff like that, but that whole thing I realized that in year 3, it went from that to someone saying for the first time that this changed my life. And then we became responsible for that happening year after year after year after year after year. And that's something that you don't know how to really prepare for, because it's something that you you think that after all the parties and all the situations it would come, but it's just not in your purview, right? So I'm always happy to hear that. It just reinforces, like, you're kind of responsible to keep it going, because now you have, like, especially these days with all these things that are going on in the world, like, oh man, it's I mean, at the end of it's when you just, people are coming up and they're just hugging you and crying and crying and they can't get their words out.
Yes.
And you know, you let everyone have their moment, and it's always different for everyone. And for me, it's like, I even after all these years, I don't like, I just let people have their moments, but I have no idea how and why it's touched someone in the ways that it's touched. I just was coached by one of my mentors to always make sure to just let people have their moment. Even if it becomes uncomfortable for you, let people have their moment, and things will work out.
You know what, Julius, I'm glad you said that, because we had that when I first went down there, and I said, well, why isn't this here? And how come there isn't any more of this and this and that? And I really didn't know who you were. I thought you were like a manager. I didn't realize you were the person that curated this thing. And you stopped and you really listened to me and took action. And I had the best time. And to support what you're saying, I saw people crying like, I don't want to leave, or this was the best. And I know you hear this a lot. This was just what I needed, right? So the fact that you curate something, right, and going into the 15th year is nothing to sneeze at, because it is a life-changing event. Even though it's embodied with music, it allows us to touch the human soul. You allow us to touch one another, regardless of gender, regardless of culture, regardless of race, even regardless of the music we were raised up on, right? We don't even care. We get down to Paradise. If it's Spinner, anybody in that booth playing, if it's Nicodemus, we don't care. Anybody playing, we're gonna love it. It's like a revival. Our feet is in the beautiful water and the sand. Everybody's looking great, drinks in the hand. It's wonderful. And people go back changed, because I think it's a reset. And the timing of it, Julius, is amazing, because I know you start early in the year, Costa Rica, a couple of years you did Chicago. I see you, maybe a boat ride in New York. Okay, he's all over. Maybe starting like March, April or something like that. And the fact that you ended in October every year is a little risky from a weather perspective. But
oh my God, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, it could be hurricane season or things going on. But the fact that the weather is so magnificent at that time of year makes it a hit. And then people go into the winter weather, the fall or whatever, like, you know what, that Mikasa did me right, and it'll hold me until spring, until we can come out and play again. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's like the hope that like, you know, man, and it's just amazing to hear people say year after year, it's like, okay, I get this in and I'm good. This will last me to this long. I'm like, okay, perfect. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. I want to ask you, where'd you get the Mad Thinker name from?
So in 1997, 97 and 98, I was a creative kind of director and quasi-producer, more creative director with my friend DJ Immaculate, and we managed this group called the Rec Center. And there are 10 MCs, Eric and I, and they were out of Belgium. So we produced an album in 97. In 98, we're trying to figure out what's going to be the first music video. So everybody in the group described what they thought that the music video should be, and I was the very last person. So I laid out what I thought the music video should be, and when I was finished laying it out, it was total silence. And then one of the artists was like, "The Mad Thinker." And that it was right around the time when I was going to be choosing a name for. I didn't play hip hop as a DJ, but I play house. And I was going to be naming, figuring out what my name was at that point.
Wow.
I didn't figure it out at that point, and I was like, oh my God, it's so true. It's 100% right. Just constantly analyzing always. So it wasn't me that came up with it. It was an artist. His name was Miles Bentley.
Wow.
Yeah, he's the one that push it over.
The mad thinker.
No, it was not an easy name to come up with.
Oh.
It was like, maybe there was like, maybe 3 people that were like, yeah, the mad thinker, that's dope.
Yeah.
Like my cousin was like, man, I like that. That's dope, man. That's dope.
Dope.
Everybody else was like, can you just be Julius?
You are the mad thinker. And listen, for you to do what you do for all these years, we have seen your support system, and one is your beautiful wife. Was it difficult for her to get on board, or she was already like so supportive of who you are as a thinker?
Oh man, this is just these are the hardest lessons to learn as coming up when you're producing. So before I even get to her, even with 3 degrees, I thought that, okay, it's been, 10 years of 3 degrees, and I was a person who's always proactive, giving out, hundreds, thousands of CDs, letting people, we had a free party where we brought everybody from around the world to free. These experiences translated, transformed people's lives, all this stuff. And then when we were doing Mexico, I'm thinking like, hey, maybe this is going to work out perfect. I got a great base in Chicago and blah, 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 No.
He said no.
No. Forget the CDs, all those great times, all that's gone. And no, it just didn't. So it just doesn't work like that. And so when I first described it to my wife, I'm like, so it's already in my head. Yeah. The basic premise is, if you like house music, it's house music in paradise. It's kind of a no-brainer. But for my wife, when I first started, I was like, honey, I'm like, so, just think about this. This is going to be like Mexico and, and us being in Mexico and she's just like, are you sure you want to go to Mexico? And I'm like, yeah, it's paradise, honey. I mean, this is going to be amazing, right? Yeah. So it took a second for her. I don't know if she thought in the beginning, like, we were going to go to, like, the most impoverished neighborhood, you know what I'm saying, and be trying to have, DJ or whatever, Kate, watching our heads, you know what I'm saying, like, but for me, it was like, so I had to say, no, honey. I said, so I was like, okay, just imagine I named like 3 or 4 of her friends, and you guys come to see me, and you have fun, right? And she's like, yeah. I said, now, instead of going to X club, let's take that out, and now imagine yourself on the beach with them. You can go swimming and hear the music. Do you think that you would have fun? And she's like, yeah, of course. That's what Mikasa, that's the vision. Yeah. And so it was hard to, if it was, thank goodness for New York. Because there's 8 million people in New York, and if New Yorkers hear somewhat of a good thing, they'll be like, I'm about it, right? And if it wasn't for New York, they just jumped on. Chicago is more like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let me know how that is when you get back. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like year after year after year after year. Yeah. And and I thought it was so simple to grasp, but it was a little bit complicated to figure out like how to articulate it. And then the Mikasa Sukasa, my sister came up with that part of it because we grew up in a multicultural neighborhood, and all of our Latin friends would be like, whatever you need, like, are you hungry? Are you sure? Just the hospitality. Yes. And then touring around the world, I'd never ever heard anyone say, I'm not going on holiday, right? Yeah. So the holiday aspect is a reminder that you have to take time for yourself. Yeah. So Mikasa holiday and Mikasa Sukasa holiday, right? Mm-hmm. So, it took a while to get people from the U.S. to grasp that, and then also use Mikasa holiday and not festival. Like, so, my friends will laugh. They'll be like, "Oh, you're gonna do Mikasa festival? I mean holiday." So the festival, holiday, for the event, holiday, and even our inner team, I had to be so committed to make sure people understood the concept of holiday. Yeah. Now, after all these years, it's beautiful because people actually know what it is, but man, it took a long time for people to grasp, you know.
Shifting minds. And you know, the U.S., we just move differently, Julius. You know, we work all the time. We're guilty if we take time off sometimes. Then we feel bad if a certain crew or audience can't go with us, right? Then we gotta venture on our own, you know. So there's so many different variables that kind of stop us. But I think as we get older, right, and you know, we're like, man, F that, I'm doing it. Like, I'm out, I'm gone, and guess what? I'll bring you a T-shirt when I get back because I gotta have it, you know. And the thing too that helps, not for nothing, Julius, that social media help, because when people are DJing and people are looking good, tongues are hanging out their mouth because they're like, that's going on where? Like, what? Like, the music is good and the people are great. I'm going there. Where is this? They go, where is this in the chat? And you tell them, they're like, I'm going next year. So yeah, it's definitely an eye-opening thing. Do you find, Julius, that some of the people are a little younger, or do you have a certain age demographic that hangs out with Mikasa Holiday?
So that's another part of the design. Early on, we knew that we were getting a little bit older, and part of the feedback that I'd received for even attempting to produce Mikasa Holiday was people told me point blank, it'll never work because the audience that you're trying to get, it's too old, and the younger people won't listen to the music. So that was very hard for me to hear, but I really listened intently and kind of broke down what they were trying to say. And what I thought about was, okay, so all right, so there's an aging population, so no problem. The music's not the issue. So the question was, how do you get the youth? So what we did early on was we started dance workshops because I remember back in the day when I was a kid watching like MTV and like a Day in Rock or whatever those shows would be, and I remember Madonna in specific, and she would always go to like really underserved neighborhoods, go work with dancers, come out with that style, bring those dancers, and they were the ones that were essentially like creating the trends. So instead of changing the music to attract a younger crowd, it's like, why cut out the middle and just go direct to the dancers, because they're the ones that are going to shape it up anyway. We started with 4 people at a dance workshop, and then that eventually just grew year after year, and then we connected it to another event that we do during the week called Expressite, which means express yourself in the community. So we connected the dance workshop with Expressite, and that is the foundation of where the youth come from. So now it just mixes. We have the youngest of the young, oldest of the old. And so the way I talk about our aging population is in the community is these folks have been there, done that. They've seen everything that you could possibly give them. Because sometimes you talk to sponsors and brands, and they're like, yeah, I have this venue or venues. Oh, I have this venue, and I'm like, look. You're not going to be able to impress our people. They've been there since Paradise Garage, all the events all over the world, all the greatest things before you even thinking about it, okay? So what this is about is how are you going to treat people? What kind of service do you have, right? So that's how I talk about our population as opposed to talking the age. I talk about the experience and what they bring, and I've gotten like the locals in whatever country excited about receiving our guests, right? And then for the youngest, we just go directly to the dancers, and fortunate to as a DJ to always connect with like dancers, and those dancers who used to just be dancers became instructors, and then they've been teaching all over the world, and so they educate and they keep that part of it alive. So you get such a really diverse youth and culture experience because we've just built it that way.
Nice. It's a blooming, beautiful flower. I'm going to ask you this, Julius, because you wear multiple hats. Tell me which one you like the most. Is it actually curating Mikasa Holiday every year? Is it DJing, or is it producing?
So, that's a good question. my favorite thing to do in life is DJ.
Okay.
Right? Like if we're at Thanksgiving and there were turntables or turkey, I would go mix. It didn't matter if I ate last night, the night before, whatever, doesn't matter. Like, that's like, I'm just, even when I get to the party, I'm like, heading right over to the DJ booth. So that's my favorite thing to do.
Yes.
But who I am is a producer.
Okay.
Right? So again, I'm possibility driven. So and I connect people. So I get a lot of gratification in creating a space or an environment where people can feel like I've felt before, right? Because I know it's possible. So the work, it's a lot of work, right? And there's a pro to being a thinker and there's a con, right? The pro is I can think and break it all down.
Yeah.
Con is I can think it and break it all down. So it becomes, whatever you put in, you get out. And so that's kind of what I have to go by after all these years. But yeah, I enjoy a part of all of it. And even over the pandemic, I took that same curating experience and rolled that into corporate. So I got drafted into a consulting firm called Working Better Together. And we curate experiences for corporate clients so that their employees can connect and engage, right? Nice. And we do it through a series of experiences. So I've used the same methodology from the very beginning in how to connect people. So that's kind of, and then just producing that comes kind of natural. It comes pretty natural for me. I just know I have some ideas on what things, what are the ingredients to breaking down barriers so that people can be open enough to have a good time.
Nice. Awesome. That's really dope, Julius. Let me ask you this. Is there a DJ that you haven't had the opportunity to work with yet that you'd like to?
That I haven't had, Casa Holiday. Well, one DJ that I have not had in all these years was Louis Vega, and I've always wanted to. He's been on our wish list forever. Joe Claussell. We had Timmy one year because Lil Lewis is another one that but the thing is I always believe it's about timing, right? Right. And I never force anything, right? I never force anything because I've learned that when you force it, you're just increasing the probability of some weird thing happening, right? So, Honey Dijon, we never had her. And the thing is, like, our audiences, there's like the Afro heads, there's the soulful heads, there's the jackin heads, there's the underground deep heads, right? So it's like this and then there's just random people like, whatever. Right. So we try to there's a base of soul because that's just, it's just going to be there, right? Right. But then we definitely create environments so that everyone kind of gets a mix, right? So over the years, we might get soulful heads. They'll be like, music was fine, but, I just feel like it should have been XYZ DJ more than this. You could have just had this. And then we got some of the underground heads could have been like, yeah, it was cool, but so many people were singing, I just feel like a little, So, but it's all good because that's going to happen any way you look at it. But that's just one thing. But fortunately, you got the venues, the weather, the people to kind of tamp down all of everything else, right? So we keep it diverse. We keep it, we keep it exciting and innovative and always are trying to find venues that will be inspiring.
Awesome. I know Mi Casa Holiday is your baby, but you've been seen and you've been DJing in some very beautiful and exotic and interesting places. Any thoughts around that, Julius?
Yeah, first of all, I love, like I said, DJing is my favorite thing to do. Yeah. I love the idea that people may not know each other's language, but they can completely get each other through music.
Yes.
So that's fascinating to me.
Yes.
I think probably the most mind-blowing, life-changing DJ gig that I had was the one that I just had at Burning Man.
Yes.
So that was for a project, an Afrofuturism project, where I was asked to curate the program and perform.
Wow.
So I got, back to your early question, I got just as much gratification programming all the music, because I love being the architect to what, you know, based on what a producer or a project manager, or a visionary is trying to, what result they're trying to produce. I love to have the different tools to be able to make that happen, and music curation is one of those things, right? So it was amazing. I was able to bring artists from Chicago all over, and then work with them, and then other artists, and under the setting of the most amazing concept, which is the pure dedication, attraction to art.
Yes.
And producing something out of nothing, right? That's kind of what I got out of Burning Man. I mean, the concept of, here you have this project of something that you think would be cool as either a message or a installation or exhibition, and you just go raise money to build it.
Yeah.
Go through everything in your life, get all these people together to get it done, and get it all done, and then let go of it, let it burn,
let it happen.
Not be attached to it.
Damn,
it's
man.
the most amazing concept, and somewhere along the way, I mean, you're going to the middle of the desert where there's nothing, and somewhere along the way, you start to realize, like, wait a minute, I'm in this camp where they built, they have all these tents and kitchens and cabinets, and you're like, whoa. Someone brought all this stuff, built it there. All the roads that you're on, they built it. It's mind-blowing. And so to be a part of that was, I really credit my friend, Fran. She lives in Austria, and my friend, the architect, Antoine Lee, who made this incredible exhibition called the Solar Shrine, which is kind of Afrofuturism, Egypt, and with an entire effort towards bringing the Afro impact and elements to the desert that help kind of let everyone know that is, whether you knew it or not, it's the foundation of everything that exists. It was incredible.
It sounds beautiful. Sounds beautiful. Saw some images, some videos, some pictures. It looked great. Looked dope, actually. Like, wow.
It is wow, and it was like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and it was probably the most prepared I've ever had to prepare for any type of event. And when I got there, they said there's people in our camp who were there for like 18 years, and they had these whiteout storms that were there, and it was, not everybody can do it. It's like being in the winter with a blizzard, but it was sand, and you can't see a foot in front of you for 7 hours. So there were those aspects, but it was a huge lesson that lets you know that if you just let it all go, it'll all work out.
It'll all work out. What's next for you, Julius? What are some projects or things that you'd like to see happen for yourself?
What's really next right now is on the entertainment. It's continuing to work to become that resource and both inspire, push, encourage, and support all the other destination music event producers around the world, and bring them all together so that the audience, especially on the soulful Afro side, is connected to one another, and they all feel like they have the ability to travel and across the world and connect with each other seamlessly and safely. Nice. So that's what we're working hard for Mikasa Holiday. Overall, it's now it's kind of, especially after 2 years of the pandemic, there has never been a time that I've understood the value the importance of human connection, kind of what you were saying.
Yeah.
And so it became something that I do to kind of my mission to make sure, be it corporate, be it outside of corporate, to create environments, spaces, conversations, so people have the ability and patience to understand how they came to the conclusions that they've come to, communicate, and then help them get to places they never imagined
Being
possible.
in, yes.
That's why I'm here on Earth.
That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous, Julius. How can people find you?
The easiest way is probably Instagram,
Yeah.
at Julius T, as in the M Mad T Thinker. At Julius, Julius,
Yes.
TMT. If you want to travel, you got a group from whether you want to go to Mexico, Costa Rica, Cuba, or wherever you want to go,
Yeah.
micasaholiday.com. You can sign up for the newsletter there.
Nice, beautiful. This was wonderful, Julius, the mad thinker. Congratulations on all the things that you've done, the body of work. You are a nice guy. One thing about you, Julius, you are consistent. You always have a smile. You're very nice. You're pleasant. And the fact that you think so out of the box, let me just say this, is encouraging for all of us. For all of us. So that if we have dreams, they're not far-fetched. We just need to just let it go, right? Let it happen. Let things happen, right?
If you see it, you can be it.
Yeah, man, this is beautiful. Thank you so much, Julius, for your time. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, next time we'll talk a little bit more about my original productions, and I didn't even get into that, but next time.
Next time. That's right. That's right. There's always a next time. Thank you so much, Julius. That's my time. You guys know me, and you know where to find me. I'm Real Chicks Rock. I'm everywhere. But listen, before we do that, we have a toy drive coming up December 8th. Yeah. That's around the corner. That's around the corner. Get your toys. Black Friday is happening. Get your toys now. Get them online. You don't want to go to the store. You want to deal with the people. You want to deal with traffic. Amazon is your friend. Get your toys online. Come out and support the holiday toy drive December 18th. Doors open at 5 p.m. We will be at Woodward End Park, 519 Memorial Drive, Southeast. Get your tickets now. They are on Eventbrite. All toys will go to the Atlanta Children's Center, and on the wheels of steel will be none other than Debbie Graham. It's going to be a good time. We're going to have a good time. You know you want to come through. You know you want to end the year on that type of note. Having a good time and being about community and giving back. So like I said, you guys know who I am and where to reach me. I am Real Chicks Rock. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I got a website, realchicksrock.com. Sign up, subscribe, so you can get the blogs. I'm getting a lot of great feedback on people reading the blogs. Thank you so much. Go to the YouTube channel, subscribe, so every time we upload one of these interesting conversations that we have, you won't miss it. Yes, thank you so much. Listen, I want to shout out some of our listeners. We're trending very well on Apple Podcasts. Thank you. And I want to thank all of our listeners in Russia, believe it or not, Poland, Saudi Arabia, and South Africa. Thank you for leaning in, listening, and allowing us to chart so well and so nicely on Apple podcast. So thank you so much. But before I go, I want to leave you guys with this. May you live to be 100, and I live to be 100 minus a day. So I never knew that beautiful people like you had passed away. Until next time, be well, take care, and continue